So, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Sharon Whiteman, and it's my great pleasure and privilege to be here every Saturday with Diana Hunter, whom you also see on screen, and Gary Knapp, whose camera is turned off today. We've been doing this for many years because we're passionate about this education, and today is no exception. We're very privileged to have our guest speaker, Diana Hunter. She's a Gold Executive Director with Mannatech and a simply outstanding educator. She has pursued a passionate interest in complementary health for over 30 years, initially driven by her own health challenges and then by her genuine desire to assist others in maintaining good health naturally. Diana holds an associate diploma in allied health, a certificate in basic nutrition, and she is a successful fat loss coach. She has assisted hundreds of people with their wellness goals through utilizing the real food nutritional products. And today we'll be talking us all about the power of nutritional glycans. And you can't really pick one product out of the Mannatech range because they're all very high quality, but nutritional glycans are necessary for foundational health and wellness, and you're going to learn all about that today. So Diana, thank you so very much for being here today.
Thank you, Sharon. Thank you for that very warm introduction. And welcome, everyone. I'm excited to be here sharing this information about nutritional glycans and what they offer for our overall health and well-being. I'll just share my screen and we'll get going. Yep. And I'll bring that up to full screen. Is it full screen now? Yes. No? There. So as you heard there, I have a long career in complementary health, and it wasn't until the late 90s, the very late 90s, that I was introduced to these nutritional glycans and what they could offer. And they happened to be the key in the lock for a long-term significant health challenge that I'd been dealing with. And so I became a very passionate advocate to other people about what they can offer for their foundational health. You'll also hear today from some guest speakers who are going to be sharing with you what's happened in their life, in their health, when they've added these nutritional glycans into their daily diet. They truly are a profound foundation for the overall function of our body. I'll start with some basics about how our body functions, and then step through some of the science of nutritional glycans and how that relates to these basic functionality of our body, and then how you can go about getting some of this in your hands from the only product available worldwide that offers these nutritional supplements as a dietary added nutrition. So let's start at the very beginning, and we need to think about what we're made up of. What is the basic building block of our body? It's the cells, isn't it? And the scientists estimate that we have about 40 trillion cells in our body, very intelligently arranged, of course. And there's two main things that our cells need to do moment by moment, and that is they constantly need to communicate about all structure, all function in the body, all operation. And they also need to replicate. Our cells are constantly reproducing. And again, the scientists estimate about 220 billion new cells are produced in our body every day. So that's about 9 billion cells in this next 45 minutes to an hour that we're meeting together reproduce new in your body. So if our cells are a basic building block of our body, it begs the question, what are our cells made up of? And I think this slide here is one of the most important slides in my entire presentation, if we really cognize the importance of it. Our cells are made up of 100% nutrition. Our body is made up of 100% nutrition. So what is the raw material that we're putting into our body every single day to nourish ourselves, to provide that foundation for cellular structure? And it's the food we eat, isn't it? It's the food we eat, the air we breathe, and whatever liquid we we take in our body every day. And I'm not just talking about the macronutrients here, the carbohydrates, the proteins, and the fats. I'm talking about the micronutrients, the amino acids, fatty acids, vitamins and minerals, phytochemicals. And today we're focusing on a completely unique and central category of nutrition known as nutritional glycans. So let's look for a moment at the structure of our cells. Our cells are little characters, little individuals in and of themselves. They have organs. They're like little bodies. They have organs. They have systems. They have a respiratory system, elimination system. And some of these elements of the cell are labeled here. And of course, we've got our nucleus that contains the RNA and the DNA material. So what part of the cell do you think is the main brain or communication center of the cell? I'm sorry, I can't see, but if you can have a go in the chat about what is the communication center of our cell. The scientists used to think it was the nucleus because that has the RNA and DNA material. But what they discovered when they were able to take the nucleus out of the cell was the cell, all the operations of the cell continued. The cell continued to communicate and function. And it didn't last forever, of course, because it didn't have its core replication material. But what they discovered was that the center of communication in the cells within our body is on the cell surface membrane. And this is another graphic of a cell. This here is the cell surface membrane. It's actually a fatty acid layer. And through the cell surface are these little antenna-like structures that form receptors. It is how our cells communicate and receive information. And they're made up of a protein chain with a sugar attached, it's called a glycan, or a fatty acid with a glycan structure attached. So they're called glycoproteins or glycolipids. And this is a basis of all communication in our body. The cells come up and rub up against each other and pass information like a coded language. I call it cellular braille. And of the 200 carbohydrates in nature, only 8 of them have this unique communication function within the body. For any scientists joining us, just a little added piece of information. This organ here in the cell, the Golgi apparatus, is primary to putting together the glycan chains, and then they're set up through the cell surface like these antennae. This is one of the leading edges of scientific discovery in human health. Well, actually more than human health, but that's what we're focusing on today, on the planet today. This study done back in 2011, which was looking at the literature about the evolution of life on Earth. And they came to the conclusion that after 3 billion years of evolution of life on Earth, we've ended up that every single living cell on the planet has this complex array of glycans on the cell surface. And this is just a simple graphic of that here. They concluded that the cell surface glycans seem to be as essential for life as having a DNA genetic code. And that is a huge statement. We've had the genome project where they were mapping the genetic structure of the DNA and RNA. In the same year, Japanese scientists launched a project to understand the human glycome, mapping and understanding the various functions of the glycans on the cell surface. This graphic over here on the right, this is an electron microscope picture of the glycans on the surface of a red blood cell. They look like a little forest, and you can see the complexity there. And it wasn't until the electron microscope was discovered that they could even see these cell surface glycans. There was a paper put out by the National Academy of Sciences in 2012 They're one of the premier scientific bodies in America. And through a view of the research, they concluded that glycans play roles in almost every biological process and are involved in every major disease. Another huge statement about the importance of these glycans. Then moving forward to 2019, now PubMed is a leading online medical resource library. And what's happened as science and governments have understood the importance of glycans, there's been more and more money invested into research in the glycan area. And by 2019, when there was a search done on PubMed on the word glycan, there was over 550,000 papers listed on PubMed of scientific research into this area. So I'm going to stop there and ask forward one of our guest speakers, what happened to him? He heard about these glycans, he's added them into his diet. What's happened for him for his health? So I'm going to bring my screen down for this moment and bring forward Kev. So Kev, if you can come forward on your video. I've invited you to do that and unmute. There you are. Yeah, thanks, Kevin, for joining us and sharing your story.
Cool. Thank you very much for having me on. So my story goes back quite some time. I was self-employed from the age of 17. As you know, as self-employed, work expands to fill available space. So by the time I got to 47 is when I was introduced to glycans. I was pretty much burnt out. And so I guess to say a little bit of what was happening before, in that burnt out bit, I was really, really sick. I had taken that time and said, this is my last ice cream because it affected my eyesight. Obviously, there was some sugar problems happening. I was having all sorts of numbness and pain, and I had several car accidents early in my life. So there was a serious amount of pain left over from that. So I was very familiar with pain. So when I started taking glycans and the other products, it was pretty interesting because within 3 weeks, I got a heap of energy back. Within 4 months, I'd actually woken up one morning and thought I'd actually died because I had no pain in the body. I didn't really understand what that was like because I had been so used to it because, you know, you get used to what's going on. And somebody actually said to me, you don't know what you've got until it's gone. And I thought this was a pretty interesting concept. So I decided I better write down some things. This is about 2 months down the track. And I ended up writing down 56 different things that was going on in my body. This just includes, you know, things like lumps and numbness and 4 o'clock blues and, you know, all those sort of things that happen when you're not well. And I had been very familiar with taking supplements. So I had already done this for that, this for that, this for that. It's taken probably 15, 17 different supplements at the time. And so when somebody said these products work together synergistically and that they're actually a system, and I could actually suddenly went, oh, I can dump all the things I've been doing and actually flip over to a system that works. And it did. It worked unbelievably well for me. So 7 months down the track, out of that 56 different things that was going wrong, there was only one left, and that was a whiplash injury from the car accidents. And so I got my life back. So one of those symptoms that I'd written down was that I couldn't travel anymore. I remember going to the Adelaide airport to try travel to Queensland, and I realised that I had that whatever they call petroleum, you know, where you sniff the petroleum and sends you vertigo and stuff. And then seriously, I got a headache that you just couldn't believe, and said that's the last time I could fly. Well, within a few months, 5 months, in fact, it was, I was won a conference in Dallas, Texas. So, of course, I took a flight to Dallas. That started 14 different trips overseas in the next 8 to 10 years. So basically, I did get an amazing change of life from not being able to travel, not being able to eat ice cream, not being able do many things to have energy, have life, and have incredible amount of travel, broaden my whole experience. Well, just even the hours of day. I was falling asleep by 4 o'clock in the afternoon. I wake up again to eat, and then fall again and sleep by 7. I remember actually talking to a fellow that I went out to a meeting, and I said, I've found something that changed my life. And he said, yeah, I know, you haven't fallen asleep in my meeting tonight. And so it was pretty interesting to other people as well. So we've got to understand I was always a person that was on the what we call this. There's 2 ways of looking at health: the vitalist way and the atomist way. So I was a vitalist all my life. My parents were already a vitalist. What it means is that we look at the body as a body and a soul and a spirit, rather than just a atom that you can break up and divide up. Obviously, our medical system is the atomist way of thinking. So I already knew and done a lot of research into my own health. One of the things, I don't know if you can see it here, is my little chart. I was down here at atrophy, broken down. So this is losing health, and then I had to come back through. So obviously, as you come back through, there's a few disruptions on the way. But fortunately for me, somebody actually said you can actually increase what you're doing and go for it faster, or you can just slow down. I increased and got faster and got right through it. So yeah, before I was taking all sorts of things like ginkgo for my blood and minerals for energy, and I already knew that as the body was toxic and starved, and had no clue of getting rid of toxins. So when the glycans and the assisting product and antioxidant came in, I was able to deal with the toxins that were stored in my body very rapidly. So what is life like today? I'm 64 now, so that was at 57. So 64, there's a long time back. 47 to 64. I was losing my eyesight back then. I couldn't read a phone book, couldn't read numbers in any small print whatsoever. I was getting my children to read that. I can now read and still have no glasses at 64. I have the blood pressure tested last week, and they said I've got a blood pressure of a teenager. I'm still working several careers. I've got my hat on as a life coach. I've got a hat on as a metal artist and make a lot of metal artwork. And I run a successful garden centre as well as a little bit of wholesale of my nursery products. So yeah, life has totally changed, and I owe it basically all to the Mannatech products that you're talking about.
Excellent. Thank you, Kev. I mean, it's such a profound story of recovering your well-being, your lifestyle, your opportunities for the future. And here you are. It's and I can really, I know often you not only feel it yourself, but other people can see it in you. And that was really wonderful to hear that reflected in your story as well. You got light reflecting in your camera. It's like symbolic of the light coming through you now. It's wonderful. So thank you. Thank you so much.
Just moved over the palm.
Yeah. So thank you for sharing your story. I know that's been valuable for our listeners today, Kev.
Okay, anytime.
I'll just get you to take your camera and your microphone off, and I'll reshare the screen.
Leave.
All right. So we do need to emphasize that we don't endorse our products for the cure of any disease or replacement of a doctor's care. This is about putting foundational nutrition in the body and letting the body do what it knows what to do best, which is to stay well and take care of itself. Next slide. Here we are. So you heard a lot about good communication going on there. So what does the body need to communicate? Well, absolutely everything. All structure and all function is communicated by these glycan cell surface receptors. And our body needs to communicate about nutrition, how much it needs, where it needs it, when it needs it. Regulation, balancing act that goes on in the body about body temperature, blood pressure, hormonal balance. Cleansing, our body needs to know when to detoxify and clean up shop, and that's communicated via these glycan structures. When we need extra support, we're extending ourselves. I need extra help over here. It's all communicated by nutritional glycans. And then perhaps one of the most important communication functions in the body is identification. Our body needs to recognize ourself and protect it, and recognize foreign invaders like a virus cell or a bacteria cell or a sick cell, and launch the immune system to deal with it. Now, this slide, perhaps again, is one of the most important slides in my presentation, in my opinion, because it's all about the recognition of signals within the body. Our cells are constantly reading signals. Now, this is another graphic of the cell. This is the cell surface membrane. This is a graphic of perhaps a protein chain with the glycan receptor. What's happening is passing by these glycan receptor is constant signals or constant information, maybe a hormone or an enzyme, nutrition, or even a foreign invader like viruses, bacteria, allergen, sick cells. And the cell is receiving that signal and then going into some form of cellular action, some form of cascade events in response. So what science has realized is if these glycan receptors are cut off and not there, there is absolutely no cellular response. There's no response of the cell because it can't receive the signal without these glycan receptors. And that's how foundational they are to the operation of our body. An interesting view also is from Dr. Bruce Lipton. Now, he is often called the father of epigenetics. He did research into the influence of signals on the cell. And prior to his work, it was believed that we were victims, if you like, of our genetic heritage. We inherited our genes from our parents or our ancestral line, and then we were just a victim of that. There wasn't a lot we can do. But his research showed that our health isn't predetermined by our genes. It's determined by the signals that the cell is receiving. And so we can improve the signal, we can improve our lifestyle, we can improve nutrition, which is what our focus is today. We can improve our mindset and our attitude. This is all signals to the cell that are received by these glycan receptors and resulting in some form of cellular response and definitely genetic response. So we have a choice. So how important are these glycans? I wanted to go just a little bit into how they operate specifically in our body for health. They are involved in managing inflammation. Now, this graphic is of a blood vessel, and that's your white blood cells and your red blood cells. Out here in the tissue is some inflammation, perhaps an infection. Now, what happens is when there is inflammation in the tissue, these white blood cells start to roll, and these selectins, which you can see the glycan structure there, are involved in then pulling the white blood cell out of the blood vessel into the tissue and helping to manage inflammation. So glycans are involved in managing inflammation. They're involved in our blood group makeup. So we've got O, A, and B blood group here. They're exactly the same in their molecular structure up until this point. The only difference between our blood groups is a nutritional glycan at the end of their molecular structure. And we all know what happens if we get given the wrong blood group. You know, all hell breaks loose, doesn't it? Our body goes into an immune response. And that's because at that cellular receptor level, it's recognizing this glycan doesn't belong in that body and it's launching an immune system response. So that's how fundamental they are in cellular recognition of the blood group. Some of our hormones are in and of themselves glycoproteins. Thyroid stimulating hormone is a glycoprotein, a protein chain with a glycan attached. And, you know, I'm sure many of you have heard of people who need support with their thyroid health these days. Luteinizing hormone is the hormone involved in female ovulation. It is a glycoprotein. So, you know, what people wanting, you know, healthy pregnancies, I want to make sure that they've got good glycan production and good glycan effect on a cellular level. And perhaps one of the most profound insights to their importance is that 5 of these 8 nutritional glycans known to be necessary for cellular communication are found in mother's breast milk. I think that's an indication of nature saying these are vital for life. Now, the glycans are spread across all our food groups around, many food groups, I should say, around the planet. No one food group has all 8, but human breast milk has 5. So I'm hoping this will make sense, and you know, we understanding that we all need these glycans. So how are we meant to be getting them? Well, originally we would, in ancestral times, we would have been getting them from our food, but I rarely receive too much argument these days that the quality of our food is diminishing. And there's several factors behind this. We've got depleted soils from having crops grown over and over on that soil, and there's not a broad spectrum of nutrition put back into that soil, and it needs to be in the soil if it's going to be in the plant. We're picking our food green before it's ripened on the vine or the tree, and that significantly reduces the nutritional content. And then we're adding a whole range of chemicals to our food production. We're transporting food long distances. It's then remaining in storage for even more time. And on top of that, we're processing our food. So leading nutritionists are saying that one of the most dangerous places for our health now is the local grocery store, because especially if you're in those middle aisles, because of the denatured food there. On top of that, we're all exposed to a tremendous amount of toxins in our environment, in our homes. You may or may not be aware that since the 1930s and 40s, we've launched over 100,000 chemicals onto the planet that our body wasn't designed to deal with, and many of them are not tested for safety in humans. And all of this is putting a lot of pressure on our immune system. There's some studies showing that our immune health has deteriorated by about 30% in the last couple of decades and is continuing to decline at a rather rapid rate. So when people say, do I need to supplement? It's also, for me, it's obvious that our food is in decline, but there's also studies showing the decline of nutritional content in our food. Way back in 1994, it was already seen that 6 of these 8 glycans are deficient in our modern diet. There was a study done back in 1995 on antioxidants alone. So antioxidants are the nutrients that help detoxify and cleanse our body. Now, back in 1995, there was a result of the review of antioxidant content in fruit and vegetables. It was recommended that people eat 5 to 7 fruits and vegetables a day. And most of us would have heard of those recommendations. Well, that exact same study was repeated in 2012. And as a result of the decline of antioxidants in the food that was discovered, they almost doubled the recommendation to 7 to 14 fruits and vegetables a day. And that's a completely ludicrous recommendation to the general population. Most people weren't already doing 5 to 7. There were studies done way back in 2002, so almost 20 years ago now, showing that based on these studies into vitamin content of the average adult diet, the American Medical Association, who are very conservative in their recommendations, published in their journal 20 years ago that pending this evidence, that it appears prudent for all adults to take vitamin supplements. So your doctor may or may not be familiar with these recommendations and may or may not be recommending to you to supplement nutrition. But there are many modern food pyramids now. There's one out of Harvard University that also has nutritional supplements alongside the food pyramid, and the odd glass of wine. Some of my friends are very happy about that addition. So when it comes to nutritional supplementation, it really is buyer beware. Did you know that majority of nutritional products are actually synthetically manufactured? In this example, we're talking about vitamins and minerals. So many vitamins, probably 95% of vitamins on the market, are actually synthetically produced as a byproduct of petroleum production. That's not how our body's meant to get nutrition. And minerals are often ground up rocks that are in pills. And really how our body's meant to get minerals is the plants take them up and we eat the plants. So any form of intelligent and smart supplementation, wherever possible and scientifically available, would be food source, food derived, that's compatible with the biology of our body. Scientifically based, proven that when you put that in your body, it's having a beneficial effect, and that it's also safe, that you can take this, you can give it to your family and you feel confident it's safe, and also safe alongside any pharmaceutical medication that you may be taking, and that it's of the highest quality, of course. And it's at this point I'm proud to introduce you, if you've not heard of Mannatech before, to the company. I was first introduced to Mannatech 22 years ago, as I mentioned earlier, for these nutrients for my health. And they have delivered outstanding benefits to my long-term well-being. They're an international research and development company. They specialize in food-derived nutritional supplements wherever scientifically possible. They're world leaders in this area of nutritional glycan technology. They were founded way back in 1994, so 27-year track record now, and they've invested over $50 million in research. Now, many nutritional companies don't instigate their own research at all. They rarely have their own scientific laboratory, but Mannatech ticks all the boxes. They have a state-of-the-art scientific laboratory, PhD students studying there. You can feel confident about the quality and the efficacy of all the nutritional supplements that they produce. And with that, this is their product, and it's exclusive to Mannatech. It's the only plant-based supplement of the 8 known nutritional glycans available on planet Earth today. It's got this 27-year proven track record, and it truly is the foundation for cellular well-being in our body. Now, we're going to hear from a couple of my guest speakers in a moment. You heard that Mannatech are a science company, and they've done the science on this product. And studies have shown and validated that when you take Ambrotose, there's increased immune support. It supports this cellular communication, which you've heard how important that is for our overall structure and function of the body. It improves brain function, concentration, memory, reaction time. It supports mood. Now, who doesn't need support with our mood these days? With the amount of pressure that we're all under. Promotes digestive health. We're hearing more and more research about the importance of digestion to our overall health. And the science goes on. There was a study in the last couple of years that showed that adding Ambrotose into the diet enhances the body's ability to respond to bacterial vaccines. And then last year, Mannatech had a study. It's a double-blind placebo crossover trial study, which many of them are the highest level of integrity of science that's available. And the purpose of that study was to evaluate the impact of our Ambrotose on immunity, gut health, and psychological well-being. Now, the conclusion was that regular supplementation with Ambrotose is safe, vitally important, can improve subclinical cellular adversity. That means improve cellular health without unnecessary activation of immune response. So without overstimulating the immune system. Some people go, I don't want my immune system overstimulated. This study has shown that Ambrotose modulates or balances the immune system. It's so, so important. We have 2 Ambrotose formulas, the Ambrotose Complex and the Ambrotose Life, which is an enhanced formula. So both formulas have the nutritional glycans, the 8 glycans known to support cellular communication. They include mannopol, which is the mannose glycan. It's the world's only true ACE mannan that's been scientific validated to support immune health. It has arabinogalactan as the galactose. It's the highest grade arabinogalactan available worldwide. Both have wakame, which is the fucoidan. The Ambrotose Life has increased amounts of wakame, which supports immune resilience. And it is the purest and most nutritionally dense wakame that's available on the planet. So you can hear the standard of that Mannatech have gone to in these products. And the glucosamine in Ambrotose Life is vegan. In the Ambrotose complex, it's from shellfish. So if you have any concerns about that, you have the option of Ambrotose Life. In addition, in our Ambrotose Life, there's 3 nutritional elements that support detoxification. Again, Mannatech are a science company. They know about the impact of toxicity on human health. So they're giving people the option to take a supplement that also has detoxification elements for chemicals and heavy metals. And in addition, in the Ambrotose Life, there's a foundation there of standardized rice bran. Now, this is a superfood in and of itself. It contains over 100 nutrients, and that is the base of the Ambrotose Life. So with that, it's time to hear from our couple more guest speakers, what's happened to them in their life, in their health, when they've added these nutrients into their daily diet. And I'll just stop share. I'll call upon Pam just to unmute. There you are.
Good morning.
Thanks for joining us, Pam.
My pleasure. Well, my story, sorry.
Go ahead.
My story goes back over 20 years too. And I was diagnosed with an immune malfunction. And that sort of brought my life to a bit of a halt, because I'd been an extremely active person before that over the years with martial arts and tennis and walking and gardening, and there was no stopping me. I'm just one of those people that has to be moving all the time. So to be diagnosed with something like that and just given some pills and told to go home and just learn to live with it and give up all your activities because that might make it worse. So I did that, did as I was told, and went home and spent most of my time lying on the couch because I had absolutely no energy, and the muscle pain involved with that just wouldn't quit. It was just with me day and night. And so with the brain fog as well, so it was just affecting a lot of my body. My walking was impaired, my speech was impaired. And so I had a lot of time to think about things, and the medication I was on, I wasn't happy with the side effects that it could cause. So I was constantly looking for something more natural, and I found a few and took them, and with very little effect, no improvement at all. And so I had this vision of my son becoming my carer, because he was helping me with housework and gardening and shopping, with everything. And it was just very debilitating, actually. It wasn't a very nice, pleasant thought for the future for me or for him. And so I then started looking for something else natural when a friend actually shared the glycans with me. And she had the same condition, and I could see that she wasn't anywhere near as debilitated as I was. And I thought maybe this is something to look at. So I did, and I thought the science made sense, but I still didn't jump in boots at all because I'd taken so many things. And so I thought, no, okay, I'm just going to give it 3 months. And at the end of the 3 months, if there's no improvement, I'll stop taking it. So at the end of the 3 months, I thought, I can notice the brain fog lifting, and I could sort of think I had more clarity. And then other people started noticing things, that my speech had improved, and I was walking up their stairs without hanging onto the rail. I could walk up like a normal person does. So I couldn't do that before. And so all of a sudden, I just had this glimmer of hope. And when you've been that unwell, to get a little glimmer of hope, you just hang on to it and you just go for it. I thought, no, I'll just keep going. I'll just keep taking it, because as I did, I improved more. Everything started coming back to normal. And that was 18 years ago that I started on the product. I would never, ever be without the products now, because now I have a life back. The martial arts might have toned down a little bit to Tai Chi. I'm, at 73, I just can't believe that I'm even here, because I don't know where I would have been quite frankly, that I could have gone on much longer like that, because you can't live your life like that. That's just existing. You know, if you want quality of life, you just got to make that choice. So, yeah, I'm just so thankful, so grateful for that young lady, that friend sharing that with me, because, yeah, it's just given me back my life.
Oh, that's a wonderful story of recovery, Pam. It's the first time I've heard it, so I feel gifted to hear your story, and I'm sure our listeners do as well. So thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Donna.
And I'll ask for Mike. Just to...
Good morning, everybody. I'll just turn on my video here.
Okay.
Good morning. How is everybody?
Morning. Good morning, Mike. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you. It's my pleasure to be here. I've had a haircut, so it looks all right on the camera here. And Rachel's updated the background, which I think is pretty fantastic. So a little bit about my story. Well, I'll let you know, I'm 47 years old, and I had a health journey. About 25 years ago, I was diagnosed with an autoimmune condition, which affects my digestion. And so I didn't let that really get in the way of doing life, working, and then you know, marrying Rachel and having our children. And so I've actually worked 2 jobs for about 24 years. But about 5 or 6 years ago, I became unwell. I changed jobs, and I took on a job as a manager, and I found it very stressful, and it actually upset my digestive system to the point where I ended up having a bowel resection. So part of my tummy got infected, and then I did the man thing and just kept going, and then so I ended up having a bowel resection. And so my only I suppose my only health regime and nutrition at that point in time and interest was just to keep doing what I'd always been doing. So I was born, raised on a farm, so always had fresh fruit and vegetables and meat and things like that. So I can't really say, you know, from my beginning there was anything bad, and so I just was, I suppose, not self-aware of the impact of nutrition until I had an illness story, not a wellness story. So so then after I had that first bowel resection, I continued back to work. I felt well. I had about 40 centimeters of my small bowel removed in my ileum. You can Google that later on, terminal ileum. And then I returned back to work. I changed jobs. I left that stressful job because stress is a trigger for this immune condition, I suppose. And then what happened is I started to become unwell. I rapidly lost weight, and I just ran out of energy and became unwell. And one day I went to work, and in the afternoon, we're in the process of selling a house and moving. So I had a traumatic injury, which this time wasn't the bottom end of town. In fact, it probably more the top end of town. So I actually I became unwell. I vomited, and a valve didn't open in my esophagus, and that led to my stomach acid and contents actually tearing just above my stomach and going into my heart cavity, my mediastinum, and my left pleural cavity. So quite a painful injury. But I have to say, at that point in time, I wasn't very well. I had some symptoms, things going on that, again, as a man, I just ignored and just kept going. So to all you
So, ladies and gentlemen, we appreciate you. Thank you and have a wonderful weekend. We'll see you next week. Bye, everyone.